Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this edition of our Brunch and Learn webinar series. We're thrilled to have you tuning in with us today and hope that you are all staying well. I'm Muriel Vincent, Communications and Social Media Coordinator at the Climate Reality Project Canada. I'm joined today by one of my colleagues, Imogen Stortini, our IT and Social Media Coordinator, as well as our speaker of the hour, Lil MacPherson, founder and co-owner of the Wooden Monkey restaurants. This Brunch and Learn series is an opportunity for us to explore the topics covered in the National Climate League standings. The 2019 standings feature 15 primary sustainability indicators, benchmarking climate action among participating cities across Canada. It also features examples of best practices in those areas. We invite you to download the standings from ncl.climatehub.ca and to explore our webinar series at hubflix.climatehub.ca. You can find all of these resources in the chat. For today's feature, we are looking forward to discussing local and global food choices, regenerative farming, and how cities can encourage and teach the powerful choices all citizens have to help fight the climate crisis. Today, as I mentioned before, we have the pleasure of being joined by Lil MacPherson. Lynn Mcpherson is the founder and co-owner of the Wooden Monkey restaurants. The restaurant mission is to help grow back a healthier farming system, food security, and the local economy for Nova Scotia. They are proud to be supporting about 40 local producers, 12 of them are farmers. I'll quickly remind everyone that you can ask questions at any time using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We will visit some of this during the Q&A period following Lil's presentation. And I also want to mention that a recording of this webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel and our Hubflix in the days following the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Lil, the floor is yours. I think you're muted, Lil.
I'll start again.
Yeah, here, you can go.
Hello, everyone. We're having some technical problems, but that's okay. It's COVID time, so we're challenged everywhere. So I'm going to dive right in and talk about basically just how I got here, and it's all food related. I want to tell you, just there's some times in your life that you're just going to it's going to change you and affect you and put you in a different direction. And mine was about 16 years ago. A hurricane hit Nova Scotia, Hurricane Juan, and it was something that we're not used to. We don't get. I knew in my gut back then. I thought this has to be got to do with climate change, as the waters get warmer, the storms get stronger. And it's funny because I'm seeing I see my picture here, but I'm kind of in the dark on the screen, and that's what I felt like back then. During the storm, I sat in the dark. The whole province did for about 9 days, and I started to think about what I'm going to feed my own children. But then I thought, well, how are we doing as a province? How much food do we have here from Nova Scotia? We're up north. We're almost an island and could become an island. We only have a little piece of us attached to the rest of the country. So I started asking some questions. I asked farmers and government if we have any food storages anywhere. How much food do we have? So the answers came back really terrifying and frightening, and I was like blown away. We have about 3 days of food left. If we get cut off from the rest of the world, then we're getting many challenges right now. We had a hurricane 6 months down the road during the one. We had White Juan. There's 9/11. There's all kinds of shocks that will happen, and it just really made me think. And I've been in the food business now for, I'm embarrassing to say, since I was 16, so about 40 years now. So I've touched food my whole life, and it's kind of what I know, the restaurant business, and opened a few restaurants for other people. So I thought, I'm going to take a big leap of faith, and I'm going to start a restaurant that will support a new vision for Nova Scotia and for us, for everyone, for our children. And we need to bring back the local food system. We have to do this. I knew it was the right thing to do. It's the better food quality. It's the best food to eat. It's better for the farmers, the economy, and it just all started happening. And when I started to do this, people didn't think it was possible. how can you possibly run a restaurant and have all your meat from Nova Scotia? There's no supplier list. We had to go and find I had to go find chicken farmers, and I had to go find vegetable farmers and meat producers, and it was really quite something. And it was a magical time. I'm telling you, I didn't have any money, but I had a boat full of passion for this vision, and we pulled it off. So 16 years later, we're still open. We have another restaurant, and people really care about local food. I found bringing new chefs in at the time and even now that they actually comment on the high quality food that we bring in, like the greens and the meat. They're just like, wow, and what is this oil we're using? Non-GMO canola oil. I'm like, yeah. And at the time we had to actually, believe it or not, get the oil from Germany. And people don't know that story. I don't know if I have time to say it, but maybe somebody will ask me that question, but it's quite a story. And that's our Canadian oil. We invented that oil, and it's been basically hijacked by Monsanto. And that makes me mad. I want that back. So so now we can get non-GMO canola oil from Canada, but it took a long time to find that. So anyway, the monkey story is really, really quite a story about just building a business alliance for a local living economy. And I found, just even by buying local food, which is powerful. I mean, I knew that local food and food in general and the soil had a big part to play in the climate change crisis. And it is so powerful. It is, to me, it's my focus now. I'm kind of back in the soil again, and I've ran for politics, and I've been involved in the energy sector, and just really out there trying to find all the solutions. But I just come back to the soil, and I'm so happy to be in the dirt again. So the wooden monkey has changed my life, and I became an Al Gore presenter like yourselves, and that's quite an amazing experience. And I always was focused on food. So I did do, all my presentations were all on agricultural effects, climate change affects agriculture. And I don't know if people realize that out of all the industries in the world, in the whole wide world, the most that will be affected by climate change is food. It is powerful. So I get to go to a United Nations climate change conference. I've gone to 3. And I will tell you all, I don't know if anybody's ever been to one, but I really recommend you going to one. Somehow get there. Of course, after the COVID, it is the most exciting, amazing time. It's the largest party in the world. We're right here. We're a small group of us sitting here, listening to me. God love you. And, when you're with the world and you're with tens of thousands of people that believe what you believe, fighting for what you fight, it is amazing. And the innovation, the technology will blow your mind. And I call it the green tsunami. And it's happening no matter what. It is the largest self-organizing movement in the world. And it really gives you hope because it can't be stopped. So I felt great hope when I did go to one, but there was one particular meeting that changed my life, changed my whole thought pattern. And I squeezed myself at the conference. I squeezed myself into this meeting with about 7 people from representing 7 different countries all over the world. And the topic was small scale sustainable farmers are cooling down the planet. And I said, what the hell are they talking about? And I started to listen and heard this beautiful story unfolding before me, that we can sequester carbon through proper farming, through regenerative agriculture, through permaculture agriculture. And then they started talking about, the Serengeti and the buffalo across the Great Plains of Canada, and how the animals of the world are helping stabilize the planet and, nurturing the soil and helping draw down the carbon. And they talked about how, like the buffalo, and these are like hundreds of thousands of herds. And you think, well, why wouldn't they damage the soil? Because they're animals in motion. And when they go across the plains and they stop and they fertilize the soil, leave lots of poop around, and they take a bite of the grass and they move along. In order for that grass to grow back, it actually, like a straw, like little straws, millions of straws, sucks carbon down, back down to the soil. And it is beautiful and it's very powerful. And I was like, what? I mean, here I was at a climate change conference at the best and the most brightest minds in the world talking about how to fight and win climate change. And I'm squashed in this amazing meeting, jam-packed, hearing the best news ever is about agriculture. It's the game changer. And I've been fighting for the last 10 years and trying to tell as many people as possible this amazing story. And we can feed the planet this way. 60 or 70% of the small scale farmers are already feeding the planet. It is amazing. So I came back to Nova Scotia and I was like, wow, I wanted to spread the word, and it's really powerful. And I felt even more, I wanted even to bring more farmers on and to teach farmers about, what I learned, and I even talked to my farmers today and talk about, starting carbon farming. I came back, bought a farm myself. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. My family's like, what are you doing, Mom? So I am going to start, and I have started carbon farming myself. I'm learning how to do this. But it is, as climate presenters, and when I look at the atmosphere today, and every morning I look up, I do see those emissions up there. The world is fighting about trying to keep those emissions from going up. And that is quite a big topic for everybody. Fossil fuel industry, we need to change our ways, we need to change our transportation, we need to change the way we're producing everything. And by the way, when you add up all the transportation in the world, planes, boats, automobiles, you name it, ships, everything, agriculture still emits more carbon than all the transportation in the world. So when I look up at the atmosphere, and I see now all the emissions up there, and even if we today stopped all fossil fuels from going up, if we stopped all carbon right now from going up, we done it. We did it. The world's great. We stopped all the emissions from going up. We still have a huge legacy load of it's like 415 now parts per million. The world is going to keep heating. We have to deal with those numbers. We have to do a drawdown, because if we don't, we lose. And here, this fantastic solution is like right beneath our feet. We're walking on it every day. And when we change the system, oh my gosh, we eat better. The air is cleaner. The water is cleaner. The communities will bounce up. The economy, the multiplier effect of buying local food is really incredibly impressive numbers. I mean, it's astounding. They did a study in Ontario, and they just said, if everybody in Ontario spent $10 a week on local food, just $10 a week, the economy will boom by $2.4 billion. Now that's pretty impressive. And in 1 year, create 10,000 new jobs. I mean, we got this. In the city, in Detroit, they did a 20% local food campaign. In 1 year, they helped bring 4,700 new jobs and created $20 million for business taxes for the city. So it is the way. And I don't know if you all have heard, I wish I could see you guys all too. I can see you guys nodding. Have you all have heard the documentary or seen the documentary Kiss the Ground? I can see, maybe you guys can chat it up. It is so amazing. And it's everything I've talked about, everything that I've learned going to the conferences. They are an amazing movement down there. I've watched the documentary 3 times now, and I'll probably watch it 3 more times. It explains exactly what we have to do. It's the biggest hope and the game changer in this planet. And I've was so excited, I decided to join them, and I'm doing the courses with them, doing a deep dive down the soil again. And, I'm really excited to join. And I'm going to be speaking about this till I die. I'm going to do as much as possible. I'm putting presentations together, and I just want to get on the road and spread the word. And I'm speaking to as many farmers as possible, because it's something is changing, because we're doing a no-till. During all the ridiculous tilling we've been doing for the past 100 years, have taken, they say now 50% of the world's carbon in our soils in the world are in the atmosphere. So we know that it's causing desertification. This industrial agricultural system just has to stop. We have to redesign this. And for me, and all the things that I've fought for all my life, I find it kind of hard to dive in and say, well, people say to me, how are we going to change that? How are we going to fart? How are we going to fight the Walmarts of the world and the big agribusiness? I said, I don't want to fight them anymore. I think we turn and build the agriculture system that we want. We just turn and build it. We're doing it the monkey. People didn't think it was possible. They thought you will never survive as a restaurant, because they kind of almost insinuated that, oh, there's not enough flaky organic people for you to stay open. I'm like, really? Well, we buy now 2 restaurants, and we've won awards and everything. It's been really amazing. We've had movie stars come to a restaurant. We had the Rolling Stones come to a restaurant. I filled Paul McCartney's fridge when he came here and played. I mean, it's crazy. We buy, and I added up one time, and I'm going to share these numbers with you. We buy with one restaurant. I said, I'm going to add this up, just the local products that I'm buying. And I didn't even add the liquor, which I will too. About $25,000 to $30,000 a month. So times 2, that's about $50,000 a month that this 2 restaurants are putting into the economy, growing a new food system, putting health back into these communities. It's really something. So the biggest thing that we can do, the thing that's on our plate in front of us, will either accelerate climate change, cause climate change, or we can solve it. We can definitely eat our way out of climate change. It is a powerful tool, and I'm really excited and there's so much of this story. It's like, diving into the food box for 15 minutes is like overwhelming for me, because I want to talk about glyphosate, and I want to talk about additives, and I want to talk about factory farming, and you can deep dive in all these big boxes. But it's definitely a conversation to continue having. And I want to encourage you to open your fridges and your freezers and your cupboards and join me. And I just want to say too, before we start questions, I'm not a perfect person. I still drink beer and eat chicken wings. I just want to eat the right wings from the right chicken. So there you go. I think we can start our questions. I hope I didn't go over. I probably did.
I saw you fine though. Plus, it's really interesting. So thank you for this wonderful presentation. And our participants now, I think they know like a little bit better, like how their food choices can, directly impact the climate. So we'll now enter the Q&A portion of this webinar. And before we go on, I'd like to remind you that this webinar is 30 minutes long, but may go on a little longer if questions persist. So our first question is on policy. So one participant asked, what policy change needs to happen for sustainable farming practices to be scaled up?
Well, I think there's a few policies that come to mind immediately, and that's a fantastic question. Thank you for that one. Right away, I would love to see farming carbon credits. They talked about that in Copenhagen. In Nova Scotia, we have a cap and trade, which I don't really agree with, but I guess that's what we have. But farmers could actually really diversify their income by just farming and doing the carbon credit. So that's one. We need to eliminate subsidies. We need to which incentivize the most destructive industrial chemical farming. So we need to stop, the subsidies towards large scale farming and put it towards family farms. And we need to increase some funding for carbon sequestration. I've been on the website and the Canadian government website, and they're not speaking at all. Just Google it. It's crazy. So we have to really put some pressure on there. So and get some regenerative stewardship practices on the federal lands. Let's, as much as we know the Trump world down there and below us, they're really in trouble down there. But this is not him doing this, but they're ahead of us when it comes to regenerative agriculture. They're talking about it more, and they're ahead of us in Canada. We really are behind. So we got to kick it up. Good question.
Agreed. Thank you, Lil. So our next question is about self-reliance as part of food systems. So if the practice scales up, what percentage of food grown in our backyards and on city rooftops could we incorporate to our everyday food systems, and could individuals heavily rely on them?
God, these are great questions. Absolutely, we can definitely scale up in a large way. And when and everybody needs to at least start to grow their own food, whatever it is. If it's a tomato plant on their patio, if they want to get together with a friend that has a little more land backyard than they do, start growing. And that's how we get our power back. But when I ran for mayor a few years ago, I was putting forward a basically initiative where, because I also during being in the restaurant, I hire on immigrants all the time, and we help. We it's great. And two I have on right now from India are both farmers. They want to come and farm at my farm. There's so many people, refugees, immigrants coming here that are fantastic farmers with a lot of experience. So I would propose in Nova Scotia and HRM, we have a lot of land in our city, and we could have incubator plots in food desert places, growing food, giving people a piece of land for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, give them the seeds, the shovels, the wheelbarrows, whatever they need to get them started, grow food, and they could sell the food right in that community, all over Halifax and HRM. There should be no need for anyone to be hungry at all. We just we can definitely do that. But yes, we can feed, we could have orchards. I talk about growing orchards in the city. In the schools is another program that I'm trying to push forward, where we take the concrete up around the schools and do 3 things: put small little forests in to teach them about forestry, orchards. So you have a 10-year-old that can actually go in and knows how to deal with an orchard and trim an orchard. It'd be awesome. And gardens to teach them that they know how to save seeds, they know how to grow food. We will not change the system if we don't start with the young children and put it right in the school. So that's yes, we can really rock it here. We can feed ourselves.
Thank you. So now on to transport and distribution. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but one participant asked, is trying to reduce the food mile a significant enough lever when it comes to lowering greenhouse gas emissions? Or should we rather focus on food waste instead?
I would say absolutely do both. And I guess it's not enough. The food mile is significant, but because it's attached to so many other elements, it's not just the mile, it's everything that goes with that. But they both have to be done together. And she's right, food waste, I call it wasting food. I mean, in Canada, we waste food. 60% of what we produce is wasted. I mean, that is by the billions of dollars. That alone should be tackled. I mean, look at all the holes that we have and all these opportunities for us to really get in there and make a massive difference in our food system in Canada. But absolutely, and when we have to think buy local, but also, we have to think globally. And look, I love bananas, but I try to buy organic bananas. I love coffee. I love limes and lemons are my favorite. But what we should try to do, and we're not perfect people, but we need to pay attention when we buy something that's needed to be imported. Just try to buy something that in a way that actually supports that community in Africa. Fair trade coffee. Don't buy any other coffee but fair trade. Make a point right now never to buy industrial meat again. Just say no. If you want to still eat meat, go to the markets and buy local grass-fed beef. That is helping sequester carbon. So there's lots of things we can do. And like I say, it's not, we're not all perfect, but if we just pay attention to our purchases, we are powerful, really powerful. Great.
Thank you. And also, I feel like you answered one of our question that was on globalization. So
Right.
maybe if you want to add a little bit more on what you just said, because the question was, is there still a place for globalized food in those new food systems, or will we have to get rid of them altogether? So you gave, like you began to like answer the question, but if you have more to say about this, maybe.
Well, I think the globalization needs to be completely redesigned. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense when we're importing apples from New Zealand. I mean, I think our children will say to us, "Are you crazy? What are you guys nuts? What?" It's just there's a lot of it that's broken. We export about $56 billion worth of food, and we import about $20 billion worth of food. We import potatoes, we import carrots, we import apples, we import things that we can grow in Canada. So it's definitely something that has to be looked at and redesigned because it's really broken and it is destroying the world. I remember one time we have Digby scallops here and we have scallops, even though that's one of the scallops is hard on the ocean. So that's really hard for me to do this in the restaurant. It's one of the only fish that we like, okay, we still have scallops. And I ordered scallops one day and the scallop guy here in town told me, he said, Lil, I know, you're the monkey. So I have to tell you this. You want to know where these scallops are coming from. I said, well, what do you mean? Where are they coming from? They're Digby scallops. He said, they're coming from Japan. They're frozen coming from Japan. I said, oh my gosh. So we export all our great food out, don't leave enough for us, and we have to import it in. It's insane. So yes, there's a lot of, if we want to import things, bring coffee, fair trade coffee, organic blueberries, or not blueberries, bananas, things that we cannot grow here. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, great point. So to touch on also the regenerative farming that you talked about, so I feel like you focused more on the role of animals there, but someone asked, what future is there for regenerative farming at a large scale, and will technology play a significant role in the transformation of our food systems?
Well, regenerative farming for me is the answer, and we have to run towards that. And as we know, as the biotech industry and the large scale industry, they're always upping their technology and saying, we're going to do this. Also is regenerative agriculture and permaculture. And all these systems are also coming up with some amazing systems that are actually happening now. And I've done a lot of reading on this, and I'm just reading more on farms down the States. There's a lot of farmers that have that were, long time, 20-year industrial farmers doing, GMO corn, doing a lot of that type of farming. And they're just exhausted now because they realize that, they can't keep up with the weeds. The inputs on their farms are just astronomical. Their soil is dead and blowing away. And I'm reading one farmer here. He just said, I just said, I give up on this farming, started Googling and started taking care of his land, started studying regenerative agriculture. He said, wow, I got it back. And he's a 4th generation farmer in the chemical world. And so it's really hopeful. He said, this is really quite something. And he's making more money. He says his quantity has not changed. So he said, we can supply the world with great food. But he found the quality is changing. And of course, his farm has got more diversity. So it's just, yeah, I just want to run towards this type of farming for me.
Thank you, Lil. We have 2 more questions. So there's one on urban planning and local context. So basically, one participant asked, urban planning can impact the way food is distributed. So what would be your recommendations regarding integrating those low carbon food systems to local urban planning?
Well, like I said, the couple of initiatives that I thought about, having incubator plots and growing more food in the city. But we definitely need to do more gardening and more planting in the city. But we're also always going to be attached to the farmers down in the country. And for me, being at the Monkey and buying so much produce and meat and sodas and wine and beer and everything all over Nova Scotia, that that works. That really works. And we need each other. We need to support each other. And so we've been talking about different systems on having almost, I know people probably heard of Cisco, which is the big Cisco trucks. They come along, and most restaurants have about 2 or 3 suppliers from Cisco. We don't have Cisco, but we've had 30 or 40 suppliers coming. So it's really hard to manage, but we do it. But they're talking about having more like a local Cisco, and that's starting. So there's really great innovation happening now that are farmers and young people are taking up this great cause and saying, yeah, I'll be a distributor. So we can work this out. We can. There's lots of opportunities to grow, and I have no doubt that we can feed everybody in this province really well. I really don't. I've just seen it, and I'm excited to go forward. Yeah.
That's great. So the last question is, what percentage of methane emissions generated by organic grass-fed beef are captured by the embodied carbon in the food they eat?
Okay, what was that? What emissions are captured?
Yeah, the methane.
Oh, the
emissions.
methane.
Yeah.
Well, methane, it's funny, is oh, that's so cool. Like industrial farming and cattle emit so much. There's so much to industrial meat system right there. I mean, we've taken, when North America took cattle and cows off grass and put them onto grains, something happened. There's a lot of things that happened. First of all, it's, you have to go and grow all these grains for these cows. You have to deforest. 90% of the rainforest is actually from agriculture. So we have to grow all these grains, use all these pesticides, ship the grains, produce the grain, all this huge energy to bring the grains to animals that don't eat it. They eat grass. And when you feed them this way, and plus, they also are filled with a lot of antibiotics. Over half of the antibiotics in Canada are fed to farm animals. So wow. So once we start getting off this system, there's going to be a lot of wonderful things that will happen and clean up. So when you feed these animals this, their stomachs are terrible. And we all know if we eat bad food and we eat things that don't agree with us, we have gas. That's what happens to cows. When you take them off these diets and put them on a regular, totally grass-fed meals and hay and no grains, the methane almost, it really comes down like significantly. And actually one of the quickest game changers and results we could have when we take the animals off that system. It's really quite something. So methane is caused because of, it's what we're doing with the animals that matters. And with the grass fed, and don't let farmers tell you, I've had some meat farmers say, oh, I need to grain them at the end. You don't. We have phenomenal farmers, meat producers that they don't even know they're carbon farming, and they are. And they finish their cattle with grass. So it's such a huge thing. And I know we all need to eat less meat for sure, but we just need to eat the right meat. That's really important. I hope that answers your question.
I think it's a good question. And I think it's a good answer as well.
Oh, thanks. It's a tough one.
Thank you, Lil. So, well, that concludes our Q&A. So thank you, Lil, and thank you, everyone. We had people tuning in from across Canada, and so we're very happy that you were all able to make it. This concludes our Brunch and Learn webinar series for the year, but we'll come back in 2021 with even greater content. So if you enjoyed this presentation, you may be interested in our last webinar, which was on smart energy communities for an integrated and holistic view of energy systems. You can find it in the Hubflix on hubflix.climatehub.ca. Thank you all for tuning in. I wish you all happy holidays and stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.